Welcome to Lead Well, Live Whole. I'm your host, Michael Sirmon. Every episode, we'll spend a few minutes exploring the challenges, questions, and realities of everyday life, because success means little if you lose yourself in the process. So take a breath, settle in, and let's spend a few minutes exploring life together. Welcome to a very special episode of the Lead Well, Live Whole podcast. If I had to give this session a name, I would actually call it When the World Starts Seeing You Differently, or alternatively, Growing Older Without Disappearing. Because today we're going to talk about something that eventually touches every one of us. What happens as we grow older and begin to realize that the world may be seeing us a little differently? Our roles change, family dynamics change, the things we once did for everyone else sometimes begins to be done for us, and somewhere along the way, we have to decide what we're going to do with the years that are still in front of us. My very special guest today has spent much of her life leading, educating, serving, and building community. She's been a really good friend of ours for a lot of years. In fact, she's family. And I'm so happy to have her on board with us. And I say us because my beautiful bride, Tammy, is joining us today. She may not be saying a whole lot, but I hope at some point she jumps into this great conversation. But Dr. Susan Babbitt earned her doctorate in education administration from Oklahoma State University, and we won't hold that against her. Her career has included serving as director of library media services for the Tulsa Public Schools and as manager of the Collinsville Library within the Tulsa City County Library System. But retirement certainly hasn't meant disengagement. Susan continues to be active in her community and is the founder and spokesperson for Ward Wiseman Animal Haven, a nonprofit no-kill shelter that she has served since 2004. She's also a speaker, workshop facilitator, and community builder whose work focuses on leadership, ownership, accountability, and helping people discover what she calls their spark. And there's another part of Susan's resume that may be even more important to today's conversation. She and her husband, Harold, have 2 sons, 10 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. Susan, I'm very, very glad that you're here. And you sent me some thoughts before we sat down today, and several of them actually made me smile. But underneath the humor, I think there's something pretty profound. So with that, welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. Hi, Tammy. Hey.
All right, so this is just a conversation. Right? Some friends sitting around with a cup of coffee or a bottle of water, just having a talk. But okay. I am going to grill you like you're on some kind of expose show. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So I think the question for me that starts off the whole conversation is, when did you first realize that your friends, your family, and maybe even the general public were beginning to see you differently?
It happened very slowly, kind of crept up on me. And eventually I began to see that I was being asked, could I get that for you? Or let me get the door. Or would you like for me to fill your plate for you from a buffet?
Right.
Making sure that I had was comfortable, making sure that I wasn't having to do too much, and showing that they see my gray hair and my Jetson model walker,
right,
that carries me around. And so it kind of I was realizing all of a sudden that I'm 80, and 80 is not as old as it used to be. That's what I think. So I have learned that I need to change a bit and realize what I need to be doing with the rest of my life.
Sure.
When I turned 60, I realized I probably had 20 years of productivity available, and I could do what I needed to do in those 20 years. When I turned 80, I realized that I hadn't done all of it.
Right.
And maybe I had another 20 years. Yeah. Maybe not. We'll see. But that's when I started thinking about how I don't really worry about age.
Right.
That's when I started realizing that age does make a difference, because a lot of your social calendar is scheduled for doctor appointments.
Right.
That type of thing. So I begun to take reality into my mind and see what's going on.
Yeah, that makes sense. For clarity, all those times I've done that for you wasn't because of your age, it's because I had such respect for you.
I know, that is true. People, I was saying to myself, suddenly I began to notice that everybody's calling me ma'am.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that was very nice. And I thought, oh, well, that's nice. And then I realized ma'am is an older woman. And they're being very nice, very thoughtful, very, very respectful of me. But it brought home the fact that I am now a ma'am.
Yeah. No, that is funny. I remember it was probably in my 40s I began realizing that there was a finite amount of time, and that I had a lot of things I wanted to accomplish. So
exactly,
in the 40s and 50s, it really is about starting to build your legacy, right? And,
I believe so.
But then there comes a point that you have to, you realize that legacy aside, you still have a lot of stuff to get done.
That's right.
Yeah.
I still want to be busy, and I don't want to disappear.
Oh, I'm with you. So you have put flames on your George Jetson walker, right?
Yes, at your request, I did.
I think it's appropriate. Okay, so think back to when it first dawned on you that people were doing all these things for you, right? And that was due to your age. What is it like, right? What did you experience when people started doing things you're accustomed to doing for yourself? And I ask that so those of us who are right behind you can kind of get our minds wrapped around it so it's not such a surprise.
Well, that's true. And like I said, it kind of crept up on me. Just gradually was I seeing that it was people were being very helpful and wanting to help me and very respectful. And I appreciate all of that because I can use it. It's just fine. But it also made me think the older you get, maybe the more invisible you become. And I didn't want to become invisible. Yeah. I wanted to keep my projects going. I wanted to give myself another 20 years to finish what it is I want to do.
Right. No, that makes perfect sense. But when it dawned on you, right, when you realized this was happening,
yeah,
what was your first thought? What was your reaction to that?
My reaction was, maybe I'm getting old, and I didn't realize it. It's kind of like it brought reality to the front because I hadn't really thought about being old.
Right.
And old is not a bad word. I mean, the fact that I'm 80, I've gotten to watch my grandchildren grow up and have children. I have great-grandchildren. I'm watching them all be able to do the things they want to do.
Right.
And it's a very big privilege to be able to have done that with my family and my friends. I'm watching you get old, Michael.
No, I'm not.
But when I realized that there were a lot of decisions I was going to have to make.
Yeah.
And kind of like what the family dynamics are for my children, how they were thinking about us.
Yeah.
And I know one thing is they would never want to think about us not being here. But another thing is, are we preparing ourselves for that?
Right.
And so holidays are a big thing because I have so many children and grandchildren that we don't have as much time together during the time. And we're starting not to have it at my house, which has always been the gathering center for everybody. And we're going to their homes.
Right.
And I take my one signature covered dish to this thing instead of baking and doing everything. And of course, everybody always brought stuff, but doing everything that really makes it like Christmas, makes it really a special time. And my birthday is Christmas Eve, so
oh, wow.
I really celebrate lots of stuff on that day.
Yeah.
My great grandchildren came out the other day, and on the way here, they said they were going to have lunch with us, and they said, "Oh, we're called Oma and Opa.
Right.
And so they said, "Oh, Oma makes the best mac and cheese." And I said, "I do." And so I took them over to the cabinet and I said, "Which one of these boxes makes the best mac and cheese?" And they said, that one you just put water in, that little cup you put water in. I said, "Oh, okay, what was that one?"
Oh, yeah.
But now I know I can take mac and cheese as my signature dish.
I mean, the fact that Oma did it makes it special.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
And that has made me laugh quite a bit.
it will. Tammy and I were
Another
talking.
thing,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
another thing that got my attention was I had gone to the Ulaga senior citizen breakfast,
Right.
and they were taking pictures, and I was at the table, and they were going to take a picture, and I said, "Be sure you get my good side."
Right.
And one lady sitting next to me said, "I don't have a good side anymore." So
Yeah.
those kinds of things are starting to, add up.
Yeah.
They add up.
Yeah.
But then they start talking about, do you have a will? Do you have a trust? Yes, we've done all of that.
Right.
But then downsizing. And we're thinking, we have all these things that we've gathered all these years, and we're not going to be able to. First of all, I don't want my children to have to clean up and say, "What in the world did she keep this for?"
Right.
And I have some children in my family who are very sentimental, like I am, and like to keep things.
Yeah.
And then I have some that say, "Back the dumpster up to the door. We're going to get rid of this stuff."
Yeah.
So I kind of like to be in charge of that. So I'm thinking of that, but it's not easy to do for me.
So it's funny you say that, because we've stopped at like estate sales and garage sales and stuff. And I always tell Tammy that when we're gone, I don't want people to walk into the estate sale that happens afterwards and see this kind of stuff here.
Yeah,
You know?
I know. It's really, it's things you love. It's like memories of all my children, everything. Yeah. And, but yeah, if they don't know the meaning of it, what's the.
That's true. That's true.
And besides that, they have full houses of their own.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, do you mind if we go back to a very important point that you skipped over?
No, I don't mind.
What's your signature dish?
Oh, macaroni and cheese.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a second dish you discovered. That's the one you make and take with you. Okay.
Well, actually, my grandmother's pound cake is my specialty. Yeah, it's very good.
Yeah.
And she made it every time we would come. My grandmother was very German, and I loved her dearly. And you didn't walk in her house that she didn't have this pound cake ready for you.
Oh, nice. Nice. Oh, sounds good. So next time I come over, you're going to have some pound cake made for us?
If I know you're coming, I will, yeah.
Well, how long does it take you to make it? And I'll let you know in advance.
Okay.
Okay. So when your mind started shifting around some of these changes, was it hard for you to come to grips with that, or you're pretty pragmatic about it?
It was difficult in a way.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to our place being the gathering place for everything.
Yeah.
I've really made our place much like my grandmother's was.
Yeah.
And we grew up in Texas. We were German. All the Germans were in that area. All her sisters and brothers and everybody and all the cousins would always come to my grandmother's house. And we played around in the big yard. Everything was wonderful.
Yeah.
As far as we children knew, and it was wonderful. But I've tried to make that same thing here.
Yeah.
And now I'm realizing it wears me out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And even though the girls are all everybody's very helpful and everybody pulls their weight, it's still a lot by the end of the day.
Yeah.
And so I realized that was one thing that I began to see. Another thing is your health just doesn't go along with you.
Yeah.
Your health starts to say, "Wait a minute, we're tired of this. We're going to make your knee not work well, so you're going to have to use a walker," and that kind of thing. So
yeah.
That was a really big change in my life, because I'd hardly ever been to the doctor as for anything except checkups.
Right.
And now I have all kinds of doctors that I go to.
Yeah. So, a lot of the changes you're talking about, and really one thing you kept saying in pre-recording conversation, and you said it here now, you didn't want to become invisible. So
No, I don't.
so these changes really, it sounds more like it's about identity, right? We've always identified ourselves as this person or that person or this thing, and then suddenly we can't do it anymore.
We've had identity from the time we're born.
Yeah.
And we go to school because that's what's expected. We go to high school, that's what's expected. We get training for our career, whether it's training areas or if it's college or whatever it is. We go into a profession. We hope to find someone that we want to spend our lives with. We hope to have children, or maybe not. Some people say they're a lot richer because they didn't have children, and I can see where that would be true. But so when you get to be in your 30s and 40s and 50s, like you said, you're feeling like, okay, I got to get things done here if I'm going to be doing what I want to do. When you get to 80, it's like, oh, well, do I just sit back and read a good book, or do I continue becoming part of the scene of my family and my friends?
Yeah. I think me personally, I think that as long as we're breathing, we have purpose.
Well, you're right.
And that purpose then keeps us involved.
One thing, I don't want my grandchildren to just think that they're going to walk in and see me sitting in the same chair every time I see them. I want to be out in the world with them. I want to be doing things with them. I want to be reading stories to them. I want to be active in their lives, not just a person, that they come to say hello. And I think the way you do that is that you make the situations so that happens.
Sure.
If you don't make the situations, it won't happen.
Oh, agreed. And you and Harold have both done a real good job of that with your sons and your grandkids. So it's been fun being part of the family all these years, watching the interactions and stuff, and then getting to know your family a lot.
Well, they all love you, and you were the minister at one of the weddings, so that was great too. Yes, it were.
So we've talked about a lot of the challenges of getting older, but at the same time, I think there has to come a certain amount of freedom too, because you mentioned in some of your notes that as you've gotten older, that now you decide to, you can dress however you want. It can be a long, colorful, free-flowing maxi dress or red sequin tennis shoes, and maybe even an American flag flying proudly on your modern four-wheel walker.
Right.
So, does there come an age when you're less concerned?
Yeah,
about whatever?
It does become, but you don't worry about being. I don't know that I've ever really worried too much about being the, quote unquote perfect person as far as clothing and all that goes, but probably would have been better if I had been a little bit more in acknowledgement of that. But I also now know I can wear that whatever I want to wear. I can pretty well control what our lives are like as far as what we want to do and what we don't want to do. And so it's a real freeing type of thing. It really is. And it makes it, you can decide. And what I've decided is that I don't want to be disappearing.
Right.
I want to stay visible. I don't want to fade away. I want to stay involved. I want to make plans, and I want to try new things, and I want to involve my family and friends.
Sure.
I want to create grand gatherings. I want to stay active so that we're all still together as a group.
Right.
And I read something that Grandma Moses said, supposedly, and she said, looking for a way to stay active is part of what we need to do. And the other part is never too late to begin a creative career.
Yeah.
So I've decided to go back into public speaking, which I used to do years ago.
Right.
And it's something I can do on my own terms.
Right.
And that's the wonderful part. You can do things on your own terms.
You talk about starting something new, and I love that, because it's always that next adventure, that grand adventure, right? But
right.
You sound really good on here. Is a podcast in your future?
Well, I had never thought of it, actually. And then when we were talking earlier, you said something about it, and I thought, well, I'd be happy to talk on yours, but I'm not sure that I would be one that had enough information to pull that off every week.
Yeah, well, what I've learned is you don't really have to have a lot of information. You just have to open your mouth and start talking.
I see. I see. Well, I can do that.
Yeah, good at that. So do you guys you and Harold still have your Airstream?
We have our little old one, but we actually gave it to one of our boys, gave it to Matthew.
Okay.
And we've stopped traveling. We sold our big one because it's just, it was so busy. It was perfect through COVID.
Right.
Because all you had to do was use your credit card at the gas station, and we had all of our groceries and everything, and then we could go visit wherever we wanted to go.
Yeah.
But it also became so busy, and everyone was getting one. We had already had one, but everybody was getting one. And you couldn't even get into the parks that we like to go to without a year's reservation.
Yeah.
And we just decided that we had done enough, and we were home, and that now my back patio is our RV pad, our park.
Okay.
And so I ask Harold every now and then if he will talk to the owner or the manager and see if we can stay another week.
Yeah, I like that. No, Tammy actually asked because we traveled across up northwest and down the western coast last year, and there were a lot of 70 and 80-year-old couples that were cruising along, and I thought that'd be a great podcast.
Yes. Oh yeah, it was a wonderful way to travel. We did it for about 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And it was really great. And we kept getting a better RV. I never in my life imagined I'd have one that had a washer and dryer in it, but I did.
Right.
And it was great. You just didn't even have to go to the laundromat. You could just wash your clothes, and it was wonderful. We loved it. And it was like we would park at certain places and then use it as our base. And we tried to see as many of the national parks as we could.
No, that sounds awesome. That does sound awesome.
It's really nice.
Yeah. When you think about, the changes that happened there and the changes that happened in your family, the different roles, right? I keep thinking back to you spent most of your life, in fact, in education and in leadership,
right,
community service, and in those areas. And as you've gotten older, have you found that your ability to contribute has diminished, or has the way you contribute simply changed?
The way I've contributed.
Yeah.
I'm still very involved with students that I had at Mason High School and Lewis and Clark Junior High, and they are all parents, grandparents, and some of them great-grandparents now.
Oh, wow.
But I've stayed in connection with them and go to their reunions and all of that type of thing, and I love the situation that we have put together as friends and as leaders for their growing up days. It was a wonderful profession to be able to see the youth of our world grow up. And so now I still stay in touch with that. When I was at the library, then we had children come in there were our shelvers, and then just students who came in and used the library. And I have relationships with all of those kids, or with all the ones that have stayed around.
Yeah.
I've always stayed with children, and as far, even college kids.
Right.
And I did teach college for a little while. So even those students are ones that I still am in touch with.
That is really awesome.
One of the things that I want to talk about is that at this age, we need to also realize how important it is to give credit to anyone who has an idea. If they have a great idea and then you take that idea and run with it, it's still their idea and you give them credit for it.
Right.
That you see the person behind the name tag and wonder, if they're checking out your groceries or whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not having the best day in the world and you have no idea what has happened with them, but you keep a good word in your mouth and you say hello to them and you be kind to them. I think kindness is something we have really got to emphasize.
Yeah, I agree. One of my mentors always told me that no matter what business you're in the people business first. And I think life is like that, right? Well, in fact, the Bible says that, Jesus says, by this will all men see that you belong to me, if you have love one for another, right? And so how we treat each other, the kindness that we show, the acceptance, all of that, I think is huge.
I think so too. I think just telling someone, I love that dress you're wearing, or your hair looks really good today, or, just something brightens up their lives, and it brightens up my life if I hear that same kind of thing.
Yeah. Tammy is really good at that. She sees people in a way that I don't, and I wish I did. So, Tammy, when you're out and about and you see somebody that is, somebody that is struggling, how do you approach them? Just boldly walk up, or how does that work?
I don't know. I don't know. I just sometimes feel very motivated.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of times I find myself struggling.
Yeah.
And I know that if I received a kind word in a day, that it would really help encourage myself.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's the reason. I don't know. I've always, my whole life, tried to compliment people, always point out their gifts, their talents.
Yeah.
It's just something I do.
Right.
It's not because I feel, like, oh, she needs to hear this or he needs to hear this today. It's just something I see in that person, and I feel the need to tell them for whatever reason. And
Tammy, it's a natural talent that you have. And I've seen that over and over and over again in your life.
I just want people to know that they're loved and they're seen and that they're adored.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's even needs to come from a stranger.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone that...
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
I had written down here that all you have to do to change the mood in the room is use a kind word or two.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Was Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see, right?
Oh, exactly. Exactly. And we're getting very philosophical here, but that's important too. It's important that we see the person behind the name tag, that we see the person that's helping us, and that it's not just their job. I mean, it's maybe what they hired on to do, but they are a person, and you have to. They have feelings. They have.
Yeah.
It's all about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know how many episodes you've listened to, but this is a very deep podcast, so we get philosophical a lot on here.
Oh, good.
No, but I have helped Tammy hone her skills of being able to read people, because she normally has to come along behind me and help people understand that I was just joking with what I said.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you do a good job, Tammy.
She really does.
Yeah.
But so do you.
When I was the librarian in Collinsville, Mike was the mayor of Collinsville. I don't know if he wants me to tell you that, but he was. But he always had overdue books.
Yes,
I did.
And always. And Tammy would say, why can't you get those books in on time?
Because I was busy. I was busy on public business.
Oh, right.
The boys and I never had a problem getting ours in on time. And if we didn't,
all you have to do is walk back by that little thing and drop them in,
That's right. That's right.
I know. But to be fair, there were a couple times you said they were past due that I walked over and found them on the shelf and showed you where they weren't.
Oh, you did not. You did not.
My memory. It's my memory. I can remember how I want.
Are you calling my shelvers inept? Well, I don't think so.
No, not inept.
No.
I'll say inconsistent.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my goodness.
No. But
to all of those listening, that's not the truth.
that is not true.
That
It was
is
wonderful.
not true.
I will say the spirit that you brought to the library was amazing. It was a vibrant, living space. It was a safe space for people to come to and just have fun and be together. It wasn't that where you have to be quiet and whisper and you're afraid to do anything. And I just love that about you.
Yes.
That's who you are.
Exactly.
Well, that's how my libraries were in the schools too, because I was a librarian before I was director of libraries.
Yeah.
And I wanted them to feel comfortable there. And, being a librarian in a school, you're not the teacher, so it's a really fun place to go.
Yeah.
It's not like you're learning things and we're writing papers and you're doing all of that and you're learning how to research, but it's not like I'm going to give you a grade.
That's true. That is true. So one thing I have noticed about you, though, is that you've always kind of been very involved in almost, I'm not going to say you felt like you had to be the one that did everything, but you were pretty much involved in a lot of everything. And as your role has shifted and changed, how hard has it been to learn the difference or to remind yourself the difference between no longer having to do everything and believing that you're no longer needed?
When I became the manager at Collinsville Library,
Yeah.
I left a job where I had a secretary and all kinds of people working with me.
Right.
And I had an inbox and an outbox on my desk. And on the outbox, when I would read it and see what I needed to do, in the top right corner, I would write where to file it.
Right.
And then it would just disappear and go into a file somewhere. And then when I got to the library, I had that same process, and that stack just kept growing and growing and growing. And I finally realized I have to file that myself.
Right.
It was not going to just be done. And it was a kind of an awakening to a different type of situation, which was fine. I could file it, actually. But it was just, it hit me one day. You're going to have to do that yourself, Susan. You don't have anyone. It is different to be the person in charge and then delegate. And delegate's one of my best talents. I can delegate very well.
Bossy is what I called you, bossy.
Yeah, right. But delegation is the term I prefer.
Yeah, okay.
But it's when you're home, there is no one to delegate to except yourself, or maybe your husband, and he's a little bit more careful about what he decides he's going to do or not do.
Yes, that makes sense. Well, that was a good way to avoid my question, though. I was trying to stay a little more focused on roles changing as we got older. Right? You were talking about dinners. You used to be at your house, and it was the big to-go place, and now you're going to other people. And then there's a mental shift there, and if we're not careful, we don't keep it in our mind that, hey, I don't have to do this anymore. Instead, we start interpreting it as I'm no longer needed, right? It's tied to that being invisible type thing.
Exactly.
So,
and I did fight that.
You did?
I had fought that.
Okay.
And I have finally decided that it's time to pass the mantle.
Yeah.
And that I don't have to do everything. And even here at the house, I don't have to do everything. I have daughters-in-laws, I have granddaughters, I have grandsons, I have sons-in-laws, sons. They all chip in and do things. But you're always still at the hub of it,
Yeah.
And so somebody will say, well, where's the opener for this? And then you get up and go get it instead. But you don't have to get up. We'll get it. Just tell us where it is. Yeah. And so it's hard to get past a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying.
No, that makes
sense. Yeah. I'm trying to get past it.
No, it's tied to your identity, and our identity is tied to what we do. So yeah. I mean, I think it's a real battle, and it's a normal battle. And I think the risk that people face is when they think they're the only one going through it.
Oh, right. And we're not.
Right.
Well, that's another thing about all of this. I have friends who are all my age, and we're all going through this type of thing, and we talk about it. Yeah. It's not, and it's even becoming more and more of a public topic, I think.
Right. No, I can see that. And my brother and I, we talk more about our doctor appointments now than we do anything.
Yeah, we try not to do that, but we do. Like, oh, yeah, okay. Or what do you do about this? Or what do you do about that? What vitamin are you taking? And that type of thing.
Well, he and I both get all of our care through the VA, so we like to compare notes.
Ah, yeah. One point you asked me what kind of advice I had for younger people. I was at a church meeting one day and was sitting at a table with two men, probably in their 30s, 40s.
Right.
And age came up, and I mentioned that I was 80. And one of the young men, I thought was very astute. He said, "Well, what advice would you give us that you learned in all these years?"
Yeah.
And I'd never thought of that before. And the first thing I told him was, "Don't burn your bridges."
Yeah.
And I've been always never burn my bridges. You never know when you're going to have to cross that river again.
True.
And it just doesn't pay. You've got to find a way to get around that.
Yeah.
And that decency is everyone's business.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
And so those are the couple of things I told him. I don't know, but that's made a bunch of, I'm sure, well, it was, that's what it was.
No, it's true, though. But even then, the question was, what advice would you share? And I think that's important advice.
Right.
Because we get so caught up in everything, and we think everything is life or death important, and
Yeah.
very few things
That's right.
really are.
Pick your battles.
Yeah. It's in management. That's what I'd always try to teach other managers and my supervisors and stuff is not every hill is worth dying on. Understand the important ones, and those are the ones you're going to fight.
That's true. I do a talk on leadership, and the first thing I say is, have you ever heard an alien come down and talk to one of us and say, take me to your boss?
Right.
They don't say, take me to your boss. They say, take me to your leader.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference.
Yeah. It's that. So when we were out in West Texas, one of my biggest frustrations was it's natural for everybody out there to call you boss. You walk up, "Hey, boss," and I've never seen myself as a boss, right? I always strive to be a leader, and
Right.
so it took a long time for me to figure out that they really didn't know the difference between a leader and a boss,
Yeah,
right? Because
that's true.
most of them work in the oil field, and it's just point and click type stuff, and so it was a challenge in changing some of the cultures, or the culture in some of the plants, to where it's more of a leader and a servant leader approach to life. That wasn't weakness. A true leader is not going to come up and start screaming and yelling and cussing at you every time they see you. All right, they're going to celebrate the wins, and they're going to figure out a way past the obstacles. So,
And a true leader is willing to do whatever it is you're having to do too.
absolutely, yeah.
I have a question, Susan.
Okay.
So the question is, so you had talked about some advice that you would give young people. My question is, what is one piece of advice that you wish that you would have learned when you were younger, that you feel that probably would have helped you help boost your confidence, help boost just the way you saw life?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question. I think maybe if I had realized I didn't have to do everything,
Yeah.
that I could learn to delegate, and I did learn to delegate. But, when you begin, you can't be the micromanager.
Yeah.
You can't be the one who does everything. You have to hire a staff or work with a staff that is given a job and they do it.
Yeah.
And you're not having to follow behind them or saying, and if they make a mistake, if it's not going to break your company
Right.
financially, so what?
Yeah.
If they want to try something and we did it last year and it didn't work, no, don't say that. Let them go ahead and do it. And I think learning that, Tammy, is a big difference in how you learn to be work with people.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
No, that is really good. I had the advantage of my very first official supervisory role. My best friend worked there at the time. His name's Kevin Taylor, and he pastors a church in Collinsville now. But I was about a year into it maybe, and I went to him and I said, "Hey, how am I doing?" He said, "Overall, you're doing well." He said, "But you're taking yourself too serious."
Oh,
So I got that very early, so I understood, okay, everything's not life and death. I don't have to do all this myself. And
right.
and then I learned that if I am doing it myself, then I'm cheating other people out of their growth opportunity.
Well, that's true. Exactly. My son got a job where he was younger than a lot of the people he was working with.
Yeah.
And he came to me, and this was years ago, but he came to me and he said, Mom, I don't know how to tell them what to do because they're all older than I am. And I said, you do it very easily and very respectfully.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think and because that is something you don't know.
Yeah. No, very true. That is very true. And I firmly believe that everybody you meet can teach you something. I mean,
Yeah.
our grandson taught us that some days it's okay to want to be a duck, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's true though, right? Because he had reasonings behind why he wanted to do it.
Because he
Well, yeah, he could never go outside and play by himself. So that way, if he was a duck, he could go outside and play whenever he wanted.
That's right. He didn't have to follow all the rules, did he?
That's right.
Only he had to follow the duck rules.
Yeah. But what it did, though, it really drove home the fact that we get stuck in a certain line of thinking, and that, disruptive, I think being disruptive in our thought process sometimes is important because it gets us out of the box and gets us outside looking things from a different perspective.
Right.
And then as you get older, it's almost like our thought processes and habits become more calcified, and it's harder to break out of that, right? Because we're such creatures of habit.
Oh, yeah. And if it's worked for you, you're sure not going to change it.
Yeah. But when your world is changing because you're getting older and your traditions are changing and all of that, you're forced outside of that. Right?
Right. And, I think that the thought of getting older is what we need to get past.
I hate to do this, but I knew when we started this conversation there was a lot of ground that we could cover, but I don't think we realized just how much was in there. And I don't want to rush through the rest of it simply because we're trying to fit everything into one episode. So I think some of what we still need to talk about, purpose, continuing to contribute, what you've learned about leadership, what you could tell generations coming behind you, it deserves more time than we can give it today. So rather than trying to squeeze all of that into the next few minutes, would you be willing to come back and continue this conversation with me for a second episode?
Absolutely. You are very easy to talk with, and I was kind of scared about all this, but I'm not now.
All right, well, definitely appreciate that. And that's exactly the environment we want to create. We want this to be a conversation between friends. So we're going to split this into another episode. We'll stop here for today, but this conversation is not finished. So,
okay, very good.
Right. So, folks, when Susan comes back, I want to talk more about what it means to remain purposeful as we grow older, as she continues to give her time and her energy to causes she cares about, and really just talk about what Lifetime has taught her about leadership and about life and about being wholly present. So, Susan, thank you for being willing to have this conversation openly, and I'm looking forward to picking it back up with you.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Tammy, and yamas to both of you.
Yamas. If today's conversation raised a question you've been wrestling with, I'd love to help. I offer one-on-one coaching for individuals navigating pressure, transition, and important decisions. You can learn more at michaelsirmon.com.